enjoyed that too. But yeah, I do. I mean, and his plan, it's not like a terrible plan, but it certainly is sort of the idea of like if we split up, like they'd have to work harder to get all of us. So, most of us will make it. And, whereas we're on Voyager, we're like one giant target. So I get where he's coming from, but it's probably the best decision for them all to stick together here as long as they can.
It's kind of telling, though. Like, it definitely sets up for the future of the next episode, where you're kind of seeing Janeway, I don't want to say fall apart, but starts to make decisions, like I keep getting back to, but decisions that are the hard decisions with the reality that we're out here alone. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have that blowback, and that's the whole point of a first officer, is you're going to have that voice of reason. But this is the beginning, in my opinion, because yes, she was calm and rational when she responded to him and basically said no, but she didn't give it any thought. And if this was like a fresh thinking Janeway, I think that they would have sat down and called the senior officers in and discussed what the plan looked like. Okay, Chakotay, I hear what you're saying. Tell me what it looks like and tell me what the entire plan is and how we're going to reunite. And instead, it was just like, no, I'm the captain. And then, of course, you see, later on where he's trying to remind her of her humanity and, symbolize that something from the past, or something that, hey, we're going to be okay. We just need to stay, connected to each other and rational and remember who we are, that we are humans and we are from the Federation. And, she slowly starts to reject that all the way through the episode. Mm-hmm. Into the next episode, obviously.
Sure.
So.
Well, yeah, I think we watch her become a captain obsessed just as much as Anarax is. She becomes obsessed with saving Voyager to the point of her own, of undermining her own health, of almost, self-harm. And we'll talk about that in the next episode for sure. So let's jump back into this episode. So now we're at day 47. We see that B'Elanna and Harry are trapped in a turbo lift. B'Elanna is hurt, and they're playing a trivia game to pass the time. So they're talking about early 20th century entertainment. They're talking about sports, Parisi Squares. They're talking about Zephram Cochrane's ship for First Contact. And, they've been in this turbolift for a couple hours. No one's come to save them yet, but then right here at this point is when Seven finally, she's there. She opens the doors. She tells them that a bunch of power relays were damaged in the last attack and that none of the turbo lifts work. And at first, B'Elanna wants to go right to work, get me to the Jeffries tube. I'll fix the EPS manifolds. And Harry's like, no, you have to go to the doctor now. And then Seven, this is a cute little nod to a Star Trek movie here. Seven says the answer to Harry's question is the Phoenix. That was the name of Zephram Cochrane's ship that led to First Contact. And she says that the Borg were present for that event, and then says, but that's a long story. And, of course, that is in reference to the movie Star Trek First Contact, where the Borg were indeed there for Zephram Cochrane's launch. In another weird time travel way.
It's kind of a weird thing to think about, the fact that the Academy, we've heard that the Academy has, characters have made references to the Academy having entire classes on Zephram Cochrane's first engine and warp engine, but yet these two Starfleet officers can't name the ship. I thought that was strange.
I think it's B'Elanna that can't name it.
I guess that's true. She's not really a Starfleet officer. Oh, she was in the Academy. She was in the Academy.
She was in the Academy, but she often reminds us that she flunked out, like I think after her first or second year, and she became a Maquis. So her Starfleet education's a little spotty here and there.
I guess that's true. I don't know the first. I mean, the Wright brothers' first plane probably had a name, and I don't know it, so I guess that makes sense.
Wasn't it the Spirit of St. Louis?
I think that was Amelia Earhart's plane. Oh no, that was Charles Lindbergh's plane.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah, that was Lindbergh.
Yeah.
I don't know anything either. Well, there you go. Nobody knows anything. Okay.
That's why we're podcasting it, right?
There you go. So now we get a scene with Chakotay, Janeway, and Tom Paris. They're talking about Tom's plans for emergency bulkheads. He says he was inspired by the Titanic, and he's describing how these bulkheads would come down and seal off sections that way. Like in the Titanic, if the ship took on even like, I think he says even if it took on like a lot of water, it could still stay afloat because of these bulkheads. And Janeway says, "Didn't the Titanic sink?" And of course it did. And Tom is like, "Well, yeah, but I think this will go better."
Yeah, but
yeah, it did sink, but this will be okay.
If anybody wants to know what the name of the Wright brothers plane was, it was the Wright Flyer.
Oh, thank you.
And they numbered them after that.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Thanks.
Sorry.
I'm glad you know things.
I know how to look up things.
Yay! So
anyway, back to the Titanic.
Yeah, back to the Titanic, which did sink. So now they're going to place these emergency bulkheads into action to basically try to keep, if a portion of the ship gets, too damaged, they can seal it off and they can still keep on going and with saving most of the crew. The doctor calls Tom. He has to come down to the mess hall to assist with the wounded. So he heads down there. So then we're back with Seven in the Jeffries tube. She's trying to, she's doing her investigation, trying to figure out what's going on over there. And there is a giant torpedo lodged in the Jeffries tube. I mean, this thing is just sticking out there so obnoxiously. And she's scanning it, whatever. She calls Tuvok and tells him, this is the Jeffries tube I'm in, and there is a temporal torpedo lodged in here. And the warhead is active. So Tuvok tells her, do not disarm it, wait for my arrival. Is that understood? And she says, arrive quickly. In that 7 of 9 Borg way that she has. She tells him to arrive quickly. So now in the mess hall, we do get this conversation we talked a little bit about before between the doctor and Tom Paris. Tom is treating B'Elanna. She's got all these internal injuries, and the doctor calls him away to help him treat other patients. He's telling him, that's the first rule of triage. Make sure the patient will survive and then move on to the next one. And he's like giving him this long lecture about you have to be emotionally detached and you're going to see more of your friends in here if you don't step it up, and you have to be dispassionate and you'll impair your judgment. And he's kind of going on and on and on. And then Tom says, physician, heal thyself. And the doctor's like, well, what's that supposed to mean? Tom tells him, well, you seem to be the one who's getting pretty emotional. And, this is when the doctor kind of puts the two pieces together of his reaction. And he tells Tom about how he had to close the door on these two crewmen and he made the right decision. He said, I made the right decision. Like I was able to separate myself and make a make a dispassionate decision, and I did the right thing, but he's clearly struggling with how that situation made him feel. Like, he knows he made the right decision, but it doesn't make it any easier to live with, because he's obviously still thinking about it. It's weighing on his mind.
And that's a big deal because he doesn't actually live.
Exactly.
So it's like, as long as his program is running, he'll have to deal with it. Like, that's maybe even worse. That's like these people on this other ship that have been doing this for 200 years, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, something to think about. I don't know that I would want to be a semi-sentient hologram.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be a hologram either. I'd be sentient, but be a hologram. I don't know.
I mean, it's got its advantages, I'm sure.
True. I mean, you don't get sick.
Listen, if I could come up the stairs and walk straight through the wall out in our common area, I would be right in my bedroom, and that would be amazing. That's really the only thing.
If I could just walk up the stairs, that would be a big advantage for me if I was a hologram. That I could walk up the stairs without my knees creaking and so.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live forever, but I like the not feeling like I'm 800 years old when I'm not even 40 yet.
Amen. Amen.
I know.
Was that episode where he ended up on the planet that time moves like more rapidly? Do you remember that episode, Rebecca?
Yeah, I do.
And he ended up spending 30 years down there in the matter of 2 minutes or something.
Yeah, he lived like a whole life down there. He had a partner. They had a kid.
They had a son. Yeah, I don't know how that worked out.
I was like, how does a hologram?
Wait, how?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we shouldn't question these things too much.
Yeah, that's why
unravel pretty quickly.
We just moved right over that. That was it. That was fine. Even the writers were like, yeah, just quickly move to the next scene.
Well, Scarlet Witch and Vision had children in the comic book, so
That's true.
True.
It's the same sort of thing.
It's apparently a thing that can happen. Don't think too much about it. Your brain will. So we go back to the Jeffries tube. The warhead is about to explode. Tuvok tells Seven, we've got to seal off this section. It'll contain the blast. And Seven is there trying to calculate the exact temporal variance. And he's telling her, we have to go. And she's really staying behind because she's like, we won't get another opportunity like this. We have to figure this out. And he's like, all right, I get it, but you're disobeying an order. So to the point that they do not get out in time, the warhead does explode, and we just see Tuvok kind of throw his arm up, and he shields Seven, and that's how that scene ends. So they kind of leave us on a cliffhanger of what happens there. So now it's day 65, and we have a captain's log with stardate 51268.4, which is Sunday, May 5th, 2374 at about 8:53 in the morning. Janeway says in her log that the replicators have been badly damaged. Everybody's having emergency rations only. There's decks that are uninhabitable. The crew is doubling up. So tensions are running high. I mean, not terribly unlike lockdown for us, right? Like, stuck in your house, you can't go out anywhere, maybe stuck with people that you don't always want to be with, and emergency rations, you got to wait online to get to the grocery store. I mean, we could kind of relate a little bit to what's going on here with Voyager.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty topical.